My name is Ronnie Bosch, aka JR Scar.
I'm running for the crown, running for the crown. So heavy on my bones. When I'm sitting on my throne, I'm running for the crown, running for the crown. Now I'm running for the.
I was never the most athletic growing up. I wasn't into sports. I didn't even really watch sports. Maybe when I was about 8 years old, I was introduced to professional wrestling, and it kind of just took off from there. For a long time, I was kind of the outcast because I was into wrestling. Just me and like my small group of friends, Frankie and Epi, every day we would bring our action figures to school and just like play with them under our desk or come up with our own storylines and our own characters. We were the Shaders, which was like a ripoff of the Outsiders, and I was into it when nobody was really into it. And before it hit like that mainstream status, it got so big that it had its own restaurant and store in the middle of Times Square. Being 5-minute walk away from that place, I would go in there every chance I got. It was just to look around and see all of the merchandise in the store and all of the shirts and videos and action figures. You name it, they had it. Here and there I would wrestle with my friends. I would just pull out my video camera and just start filming us having wrestling matches. I mean, we sucked. We weren't really hitting each other. Our punches were like a mile away from each other's faces, which was probably the safe thing to do. But I think more than anything, even back then, I enjoyed the character aspect of it.
I'm gonna prove to you once again that I can beat Moyo. I beat him last time, I'll beat him again with my new Lover Man image. Cause now, I'm the hot shot, Ronnie.
Yeah.
I don't have time to talk to get out of here.
My favorite part was just cutting promos and just being an arrogant jerk. So I met Anthony in 9th grade. Him and I hit it off right from the start. And even when I left the school that we were in, we continued to stay in contact. We remained as close as brothers. And he told me, hey, I'm wrestling with a bunch of guys from my neighborhood. You should come and check it out. It's called EZW. So he brings me downtown. We're in the Lower East Side, Coleman Park. It's under the Manhattan Bridge. So our ring was the area where the swings were, and we had our own little entrance ramp, which were the steps leading to the ring. So it was a perfect little setup for our arena.
Kids play football and basketball and baseball in the park. I feel that we're just doing another sport in the park. I mean, it's not an official ring that we wrestle in. We wrestle in the swing sets, but we do what we gotta do.
First off, I needed a character because I wasn't just gonna be Ronnie. My tag name for a few years at that point had been JR Scar, which was short for Junior Scarface. I became a huge fan of Scarface at the time, and being Cuban, I thought it was a cool name. Okay, let me just do JR Scar, and it kind of rhymes, it has a nice little flow to it. I feel like the majority of the backyard wrestlers I saw were the guys that just wore their everyday clothes, so they would just wrestle in jeans and a t-shirt, and the guys that dressed like Jeff Hardy. I didn't want to fall into either one of those categories. I didn't want to blend in.
My 69 jersey, I bought when I was about 16, and my mother had got upset and she cut the jersey down the back. When I started wrestling for EZW, since my name was JR Scar, I thought the jersey would be perfect, so I asked my grandma to sew it back up. And it's pretty much what people notice the most when they look at me.
The one thing that stood out was that in some form, he looked like a wrestler because he was color coordinated and he had a jersey and shorts and it all matched. So even though it was a backyard park wrestling thing, he kind of sort of looked like a wrestler because he was coordinated. You have to coordinate.
So I had the name, I had the attire. As far as my finisher, having my background in karate, I knew that the scissor kick was the one move that I can pull off better than anybody. I was introduced to Chris, who played the character of Pichon. He was in charge of EZW along with Teddy, aka T-Money, and I'm immediately thrown into a feud with Silly Ghost, who is the current television champion. I get my ass kicked and I lose to Silly Ghost.
His first debut, JR Scar.
A couple weeks later is Clash of the Titans. It's my first pay-per-view, our WrestleMania, our big event of the year, and I'm in the opening match challenging for the television title, and I win the TV title. So that was pretty cool to win the television title in my third match. So as the 2003 season came to an end, I started focusing on how I wanted to improve my character in the 2004 season.
This award is called the most improved wrestler. Everybody knows that's JR Scar. Hey! Thank you.
So this would be like our big launch, and we would also be putting the show on MNN on public access, so we wanted to start fresh with a new season.
It was pretty exciting to see myself on TV. I remember staying up that night at Anthony's house, waiting for EZW to start for the first episode, and I was pretty lucky enough that I was in the first match, so I saw my match.
At the time, there were two factions that were feuding. There was the XWO, and they were feuding with the CBPR, the Cold-Blooded Puerto Ricans. I needed to be a part of a faction as well, so I was part of Armageddon with Corrupt and Angel Dust. So we were right away thrown into the mix with these other two factions. We would just jump them every week, and it resulted in the two of them having to join forces to try to take Armageddon out. And I thought we just had like a cool look to us. Corrupt was the powerhouse of the group, Angel Dust was the hardcore wrestler of the group, and I was the young up-and-comer in the group, laid back, cocky, would talk shit but then hide behind the other two guys. This big faction war all culminated in this huge 8-man tag. This was my first injury in EZW. As I was setting up Pichon for the Texas Cloverleaf, Jake Fury runs in to kick me and lands on my knee. So right away I knew my knee was not in a good place, so I said pin me and get me out of this match. Luckily it wasn't anything serious and I was able to come back.
You are crowned right now as the new neighborhood champion.
Pichon awarded me the neighborhood title, which was exciting because I recently lost the television title to Taliban. One of the first feuds where I felt like I was on my own and I was holding my own, and it was against Anthony. Just sentimentally, that was a lot of fun for me because he's the reason I was in EZW. We had a few week feud leading up to our match. It was a non-title match where he beat me, which happened to be a week that Armageddon wasn't there, so I thought it made sense for him to beat me and have CBPR jump me. He was now a member of the Cold-Blooded Puerto Ricans. I was the one outnumbered this time. This storyline would eventually lead to a pay-per-view match, finisher only match, but you have to use your opponent's finisher.
Oh, what's this? Oh, God! And the turnbuckle is removable. Oh, the elbow! Oh! A flip over Shaitan into the traffic cone.
Is he alive?
I gave him the Death Valley driver onto a cone, but the referee wasn't looking. And then the referee turns around and sees Anthony give me my finisher, which was the roll the dice, and he beats me for the neighborhood title. In the summer of 2004, I ended up getting strep throat and missing about a month of EZW. Not only was I stuck home sick, but I enjoyed going every weekend. Since I was selling the JR Scar injury, I decided, kind of like Silly Ghost, I would come up with an alternate character named El Diablito Loco. I had this devil mask with a smirk on it that said Bad Seed. He would just come to the ring dancing and get his ass kicked. That first week that I came back, I was not there to wrestle, but I knew I wasn't going to be ready for a few more weeks, so I was like, okay, let's set up an angle where I'm attacked backstage. It would just be like an ongoing storyline to find out who attacked me.
JR! Don't know who fucked me up, Scar!
I get some shit off my chest. Whoever injured me, Clash of the Titans, your mind, I don't give a fuck who it is.
And the original plan was, looking back in hindsight, I'm glad it wasn't, because I don't think it would have worked. and it would finally be revealed who attacked me.
You know who did it? It was me!
In the summer 2004, EZW was introduced to Cheyenne McMahon.
I am Cheyenne Lizardi, also known as the voice of EZW.
Now, when I first met Cheyenne, I saw, okay, he's a kid, he was 13, but for some reason, I felt like he was the most mature person out of all of us. I don't know, I just found myself having more conversations with him than I did with any of the other guys on the roster.
My first impression of JR Scar, I met him, I was 13 years old. I took you as quiet, probably initially, while aligned and similar to many of the other people that were involved at the time, different.
I don't exactly remember who made the call to have Cheyenne be the person that attacked me.
I talked about wrestling. I wanted it to be like a funny segment thing, real quick, very protected. I didn't want it or think it would be a full match. I'd only had one match up to that point. So to know that I was going to go into what was going to be an angle, I don't really remember discussing much of anything match-wise.
Which I thought was a little silly at first because the size difference between us, the age difference, and it just felt like it came out of nowhere. But we had our segment in the office where he reveals that he was the one that attacked me, and I didn't know what he was gonna say before he said it. He just went off.
That's right, I blindsided you with a steel chair, hit you with a dildo, and then put you in that traffic cone like a checkpoint. Yeah, you got hit with a dildo, yeah!
The funnier he gets, the more I'm trying to like scrunch up my face and look serious to not just burst out laughing and ruin the moment because it was hysterical.
You remember King of the Ropes, the Battle Royal? You know what you did? I went in there and you ripped my t-shirt. That's a throwdown. Oh, fuck JR Scar! Fuck JR Scar again! Who rips a t-shirt, honestly?
I think initially I was supposed to win. I don't remember who made the call for Cheyenne to beat me.
I could just remember the entire tone changing in the area, like, hey, Cheyenne's going over. I was confused. To me, it didn't make any sense because I wasn't the wrestler by comparison. So I was surprised.
I was a little uncomfortable at first. I was afraid to throw him around because I didn't want to hurt him because he's a kid. So I think that first match was tough because we were still kind of figuring out our chemistry.
Oh, McMahon-omania! Oh! Oh! I love it! Yeah! That's too fucking fast.
I think the plan was for me to just be like cocky and overconfident, and Cheyenne would roll me up and pin me.
God! Go! Oh my God! Got it! What? Got it!
And I just lose it.
Fuck! This is the last time I see this fucking jersey. Get it!
This loss is so devastating that it causes me to go gothic. I think I reached the point where I wanted to make a change in my character. I had been wearing the JR Scar, the 69 jersey since I started. Why don't I do like an Undertaker inspired character and just be the gothic JR Scar? If I go on a losing spree, then maybe that would lead to me snapping and going gothic.
I don't know, I just wanted to try something different. But once I did it, I really didn't feel that comfortable with the character because it wasn't me.
If he was here right now, I mean, who knows what I'll do if he was here right now?
Scar.
What the fuck is that? Oh, no.
Cheyenne sold the shit out of it, and then I come out and it's just like, what the fuck is that?
I got it.
I go to chokeslam Cheyenne. Nothing against him, he wasn't experienced enough at the time to take a chokeslam, so it didn't look great.
I thought it was different, and I think if it would have been wrestling in a ring for a promotion, it would have gone off better as opposed to just wearing all black instead of black and red.
I didn't have any clothes that would make me gothic or emo or fit that character, so I literally just threw on a pair of black jeans and a black t-shirt.
Tonight, I want you. That's next, bitch.
So the following week, this would be the match where I would finally get my win back. So as the weeks kept going, I won the new New York City title. Probably the first time I was actually like on a good winning streak. I kept my little feud with Cheyenne going. Even if we weren't wrestling each other, we would have little moments of bickering back and forth.
If a jab was thrown at me, I would kind of reply.
So JR Scar, will you please bring your Gothic Eats Village ass out here right now? I got news for you, pal. You gotta be 25 feet away from me. Because I just signed a restraining order on your ass after last week. So, if I were you, you should back up some before I call the proper authorities. Yeah, I think you're number one too.
From a chemistry standpoint, you're going to be the number one always.
That's it, my career starts now. Go.
On the day after my 18th birthday, we did an angle where I would be joining forces with Cheyenne. He was starting a new stable, and I was going to be a part of this stable, Evolution Extreme, along with Jake Fury and iStyle and Smooth, which I thought was cool because Cheyenne was hands down the best person we had on the mic. So having Cheyenne doing the talking for me was amazing.
I thought it was cool because now it put me in that manager standpoint again, which I enjoy.
It all played out. Restraining order not working, you still got the strap. Now, wasn't that genius? And I know all of you guys are wondering, oh, I thought you had a restraining order. I thought you wrestled each other. No, and this is no remorse. Who else would choke slam me without question?
So later in that show, Jake Fury has a triple threat match against my former Armageddon teammates, Angel Dust and Corrupt, for the title. And after the match, there was gonna be like a whole angle where Corrupt would pick me up for an F5. All I remember was he picks me up on his shoulders, but he doesn't go for like the full rotation. I just feel him kind of just launch me. So I just remember like putting my hands down to block and my knee smacking the mat. One of the most painful moments of my life. I celebrated my 18th birthday that night, and I'm just limping around the whole time. This would take me out for the rest of the season.
On paper, I thought the faction was great. I was really excited. And then when you got hurt, I kind of said, well, it gives an alternate.
I cut my hair, and with Cheyenne being more active in wrestling, I kind of took over his duties and became good old JR Scar and did the announcing and the interviewing.
It just felt weird, me being the one interviewing Cheyenne before one of his matches.
That was certainly different.
I got my boy here, OE, the man you saw take out Stallion earlier.
I would introduce Frankie, my best friend from elementary school. Prior to my injury, he was already like looking into coming into EZW, and we were going to be a tag team, but with my injury, I was his manager. My knee still wasn't the greatest, but I wanted to set up the return of JR Scar in the 69 jersey. A perfect way to do that would be to have El Diablito just randomly running around during the show, pull off the mask, and reveal that it was me all along.
Wait a minute! What the hell? Yeah! Yeah!
Just to kind of set up for the 2005 season, because I knew by the time 2005 rolled around, my knee would be better and we can hit the ground running.
Y'all ready? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the ECW Arena, your friend and mine. Ladies and gentlemen, he is like Tony Montana, JR Scar.
I came into 2005 just determined to make an impact. I wanted to be taken more serious. I wanted my character to be more serious. Like, I still wanted to have that cocky, laid-back attitude, but I wanted to be aggressive when it came to my in-ring action. I came in feuding with Taliban. I faced him in my first match back. Every week from there, I'm just attacking him.
Right! Oh! JR Scott! Oh!
This culminated as King of the Ropes, which was our Royal Rumble event. I faced Taliban for the New York City title.
Oh, the pile driver! Oh my God! I think I heard a crack. Fight it up! What time is it? Oh! Oh, we got 2 minutes! Caesar King! 1, 2, and after it's over, JR Scar has this one!
Then later in the event, I was in the King of the Ropes. This time, I made it all the way to the final 3, which I wasn't expecting.
3 left, JR Scar, Smooth Daredevil.
And I'm like, holy shit, I'm in the final 3. Like, I knew I wasn't winning, but the fact that I made it into the final 3, I don't know if I just managed to lay low the entire time and avoid elimination. I don't know, I just thought it was really telling for me to make it to the final 3. So Team Money was the champion at the time. I faced him before he became champion. As much as I enjoyed being a heel, I thought Teddy was such a good heel that he was one of the few guys I actually like enjoyed being a babyface against. I defeated him the week before he won the championship. I deserve a title shot, so this was my first heavyweight title shot. One of the funniest things was, I guess during the match, my bandana flew off and Teddy puts it on and it manages to stay on his head the entire match. He would go on to win that match, but it was around this time that there were a few weeks, just due to my busy schedule at work and just life in general getting in the way. I was the one in charge of bringing the EZW tape to the MNN studios.
And I would always try to stop by MNN before I came to EZW, but it just started getting harder every week, and there would be repeats, and eventually the show was taken off.
I was blamed for that, and I was kind of called out in front of everybody, and it was pretty embarrassing, and I was not happy about the way I was approached about it and the way that it was handled. I had my third match against Cheyenne. As angry as I was happy to be working with Cheyenne again.
Shit, you're tall!
And by this point, him and I were pretty good friends, so we were a lot more comfortable with each other. We would go on to have an awesome match.
And I could just remember that next match where we were both good guys, babyface, and as we started being around each other less, we started working better, and I really enjoyed that. And I think even though at that time I was like, oh, I'm gonna wrestle him again, I knew it was gonna be good.
The entire MNN incident really discouraged me, and I just stopped showing up to wrestling for the next 3 months.
You done put 2 of America's most wanted in the same motherfucking place at the same motherfucking time.
What do you got?
But I wouldn't come back until July, and at this point Frankie was also ready to come back. This would be the first time that him and I would be able to tag. We came up with the name of POMF, the pissed off motherfuckers. We come out and interrupt Cheyenne and Odin, who are the tag team champions.
POMF, pissed off MFers, and shouts and woos. And on paper, that is like what every indie fan wants.
I can say this from the bottom of my heart. The shouts and woos versus POMF feud was the most fun I had during my time in ECW.
Come on, bitch! I want Eminem! Hey, hey! Where's the crowd? Bring it up!
We were the feud of the year for 2005, and it gave me a chance for the first time to really show my personality, which I never really had a chance to do because I felt like I was always in the background with Armageddon. At one point, we stole the belts from Cheyenne and Odin.
It hurt my feelings as a kid, but I enjoyed the impersonation of In the Office with Shane McMahon. It was very funny. It was very well done.
We thought it would be great to come out and imitate Cheyenne and Odin, where I would wear one of my mom's bathrobes as the Cheyenne McMahon robe.
We're here because I beat JR Scar last week, and he beat OE last week, but somehow we are still the tag team champions.
Frankie wore my jersey on his head to be Odin's hair.
I got to give it to Frankie for just rolling around and impersonating Odin.
You ready for this? Woo! Did you see that? Oh my God!
That whole build-up was great, and then the main event, that the blow-off, if you will, get into that tag ladder match, it was spectacular. That was one of the few things that I don't look back with regrets.
We were supposed to win the tag team titles, which I was really looking forward to, and unfortunately, the day of the ladder match, Frankie was unable to make it.
I heard you don't have a partner for this match. What are you gonna do?
I got stuck teaming with Ron. Man, I was pissed. I was not going to be stuck with him as my tag team partner, and especially winning the tag team titles for the first time with my childhood best friend. That was the one time in my ECW career where I refused to win. Even after the match, I shook Cheyenne and Odin's hands and hugged them, and Ron kind of gives me shit for it, and I kind of just like brush him off and walk away. That's how furious I was. After the tag team ladder match, I would once again take a break.
JR Scar will fall! Okay, that's great.
So I would come back and face Odin, who was now the heavyweight champion. And I'm interrupting a promo he's doing, and I just grab the belt, put it on my shoulder, and start posing with it.
How sexy are the pieces?
Take my belt.
And he's like getting in my face, and I'm mocking him.
You're gonna get hurt. Yes.
I enjoyed this period of time because I was able to just kind of let loose and show my personality.
That's why I want to be the champ. Nobody cares about football, so fuck you. I'm taking that belt tonight.
We'll take care of this in the ring!
And I thought him and I had a great match for the heavyweight title. I was happy to put him over because he's such a great guy, and he made me look like $1 million numerous times, so putting him over was not a big deal for me. And I believe that was my last match in the 2005 season.
Babble, babble, bitch, bitch, rebel, rebel, party, party, sex, 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 and don't forget the violence.
My name is J.R. Scar.
I would be coming into the 2006 season as a father. I had some baggage with me that season. Considering everything I'm going through in my personal life, why don't I just come in pissed off and angry? And that's when the anger management character was born.
All my problems is just like, they've been building up for me the past couple months, so I'm using my EZW character just to have a way to let out my anger without hurting anybody.
I would go on to main event that first show against George, aka Junito, who was making his debut, and I was the one that was really pushing him to wrestle. So this was like the first person I really like took under my wing and wanted to wrestle. I ended up beating him in that match. But unfortunately, the season didn't really go anywhere. We just stopped wrestling until the summer. We had one show in August, and that would be my final match against Cheyenne. We were booked against each other. Let's just do a double pin so our feud can be tied at 2-2 in a draw. But that match was fun. I remember his mom interfering and like choking me from behind and while Cheyenne's chopping me, and I accidentally like headbutted her and I felt terrible.
The one thing that stands out is we went our separate ways outside of the ring, and you were sitting down at the tables over there to my left, and I just remember I had walked out that way and we looked at each other and we literally, without thinking, we both went like this at the same time with a big smile on our face, and that's always the number one takeaway from that last match.
And then from there, we maybe had like one-off shows in 2007 and 2008. I just remember wrestling Sean Masters, who was a newcomer, friend of Cheyenne's, also really good. I had another match with T-Money, which was supposed to be like a #1 contender tournament. That was fun because Teddy just let me squash him and just dominate him the entire match.
JR, skip! What is he saying? There we go. Oh, JR, Scar to the attack!
The camera cut off a few seconds into our match, so I don't have that complete match. I was pretty much the one guy left that hadn't won the heavyweight title.
Yes,
I busted my ass in this park, taking bumps. For what? For nothing. I want to feel like this time meant something to me. And how ironic that it's against a man that interfered in my first match with Silly Ghost.
Oh! It's a finish! Oh my God!
Pichon was the heavyweight champion. I had never beaten Pichon, and I thought, okay, let's have like this one-off match where I finally face you for the title. And Pichon agreed, and he agreed to put me over. The biggest rib of all was Pichon said that he lost the belt, so we had the heavyweight title match. I won the championship, but there was no belt. My luck. When I finally win the belt, there is no belt.
That's you, JR Scar.
Mr. 69.
You've been in the ring with him before, but not at this caliber. He's the world champion. He's on top of his game. What's your thoughts? This man is unpredictable.
Pichon is a man I've never defeated before.
This is true.
By that point, I was maybe 100 pounds heavier than I was when I was in my peak in EZW. I was in horrible shape. We were both hungover from the night before, partying. I quit smoking about a month prior. So I was probably in the worst shape of my life when I was finally going to have my big moment.
The time to talk is over. I see you out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the dream match is happening. JR Scar beat y'all for the world title. It's next.
Just one more fight and I'll be history. Yes, I will straight up leave your shit and you'll be the one who's left missing me. Yeah! This time I'ma let it all come out. This time I'ma stand up and shout. I'ma do things my way. It's my way or the highway. This time I'ma let it all come out. This time I'ma stand up and shout. I'ma do things my way. It's my way or the highway. Someday you'll see things my way. 'Cause you never know, no you never know when you're gonna go. Someday you'll see things my way. 'Cause you never know, no you never know. Check out.
About fucking time.
If everything goes well, hopefully we do get a ring one day, and it'll be an experience that I've never had before. I've never got to wrestle in a ring.
One of my biggest goals when I was in EZW was to one day wrestle in a ring. One of my classmates in college, Franklin, he was working on his senior film, and it was supposed to be based on the Benoit story, and he wanted me to play the main role. I actually got to be JR Scar, and it was called Scarred for Life. A lot of these scenes were hard for me to shoot. There were scenes where I would be like taking steroids in the locker room. It was tough when the scenes included two muscular guys trying to convince me to take steroids, and then I'm posing in front of the mirror with my shirt off, and I'm in horrible shape. I'm about 250 pounds, and I've just got like this big gut hanging out, and I'm shirtless on fucking high definition cameras, and it was tough for me. We would be shooting at the House of Glory school, and we would be actually shooting scenes in a ring. So that was like the one fun thing, was that I actually did get to wrestle in a ring. I was in there with an independent wrestler that actually made me look halfway decent, even if I look like shit. I got to take bumps in a ring. It hurt like hell. I could not move the next 2 days. Those few years after EZW, I had like that itch, like I wanted to wrestle, and I wanted to go to wrestling school, and I wanted to wrestle in the ring. And I think at that point in time in my life, a decade ago, my body could not handle it. I was in terrible shape. I don't know if it would have been different if I was in better shape and had the opportunity to actually practice and try it. I mean, at this point in my life, it's too late, but I can check it off my bucket list. I can say that I tried wrestling in a ring.
Cheyenne, you're here along with your associate, Bosch.
First of all, when you listen to your podcast, you listen to it for life.
At that time, a 4-year age gap is a huge deal when I'm in my early 20s and Cheyenne's still a teenager. But we kind of just drifted apart, went our separate ways.
Give me the beat, boys, to free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
I bumped into him and Shawn at Shawn Michaels meet and greet. It was from there that we started kind of planting the seeds. At that time, wrestling podcasts started to become a thing, and I always said like, damn, we should do a wrestling podcast one day. And he always like agreed to it, but it was always just like a matter of finding time to do it. Every couple months I would check in like, hey, what about this podcast? Let's do this. Let's come up with a name. I wanted to combine his love of the Four Horsemen and that old school NWA and me with my love of DX and NWO. And what about For Life? But we make the four like the Roman numeral 4, like the Four Horsemen, and the life would be like the NWO. So like that's how I came up with the logo. December of 2013, I went to his house and we recorded our first episode.
I thought it was different looking back on it and listening to some of the older episodes like I've been doing. It's a nice postcard from what wrestling was, and it's a healthy reminder of how wrestling is always changing and how we're always changing and how we were changing.
I think we just had that chemistry from years of talking about wrestling. Now we were just doing it and recording it.
It was at a time where the market was open, and I loved talking about wrestling without hate. You know, did we agree with everything that was happening with wrestling at the time? No. Did we agree with each other? No. Did we have conflicting ideas? Yeah, we did, but we presented it very differently, and it was honest and true to the wrestling fan.
We were on a hiatus from the podcast for a few months, and we were like, all right, let's come back and we'll pay for this sit-down interview with me and Gene Okerlund to promote the return of our podcast.
Tell me a little bit about you and the role that you play in this podcast.
I'm the social media whore of the podcast. I'm Josh. And I know we've been on a hiatus, but we're coming back Sunday, November 23rd.
I think at one point I kind of just lost myself in a moment where I'm just looking over and I'm seeing like, this is Cheyenne and Mean Gene going back and forth, bickering with each other. Like, what world am I living in right now that I'm seeing our Mean Gene talking to the real Mean Gene?
What the hell is that all about?
I don't like when you get defensive.
What do you make of this? The guy's trying to swerve, as we say in business.
Are you trying to swerve?
I would never swerve.
We went to the Jerry Springer show and Cheyenne made an impression on the producers and got to pitch to the commercial break.
We'll be right back with Jerry's final thought.
It was at a time where I needed the podcast more than it needed me.
Cheyenne was also working for an independent promotion in Jersey, American Championship Entertainment, ACE. Seeing Cheyenne doing what he loves and what he's passionate about and what he's great at meant more to me than if I were to become an independent wrestler. From the moment he walked into EZW, I knew this guy has what it takes to do this for real and do this as a career. I've seen Cheyenne go through a lot of moments where the people around him are not happy for him when he accomplishes great things. I can sympathize with that because I've been through that too, where the people that are closest to me, the people that I think are supposed to be proud of me, aren't. For me to see him at the commentator's booth announcing meant the world to me.
We can make it if we try.
This is Bosh and Cheyenne, and this is For Life Podcast.
In terms of Bosh, he's the brother that I could have only hoped and dreamed for. He's my best friend.
There was one good thing to come out of EZW. It was meeting my brother Cheyenne. And if you would like your Cheyenne buddy, just DM him.
You are Zack Ryder. You know it, bro. Actually, I don't know.
Back in 2011, one of my favorite wrestlers was Zack Ryder. He started his own YouTube show and got himself over.
You need to take care. Spike your hair.
For the first time in WWE, I saw someone that reminded me a lot of me. He loved to party. I love to party. He was doing his own YouTube show. I was into filming, so okay, those are like my two passions outside of wrestling. He just connected with me in a way that no other wrestler had in the past. Even hearing him talk about wrestling action figures all the time, it's what got me back into collecting. So when him and Kurt Hawkins, Brian Myers, they started the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, I was gonna support this from day one. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get tickets for this live show, Live 3, in Long Island. It was gonna be at a bar, so they were gonna turn the bar into Best Wishes Bar and Grill, which was a joke from the podcast. I was like, okay, I wanna get this Best Wishes Bar and Grill shirt because I like the logo. It's a shirt that I can wear when it's not a wrestling event. Like I can wear this shirt to a party or a bar and it doesn't scream wrestling shirt. The show was a blast. I remember him saying that they were gonna stick around and hang out with fans at the bar after the show and have drinks. My only goal going in that night was, I just wanna have a Long Island IZ with Zach. And we did. He's just like, I love your shirt, man. I should have gotten that purple one, man. And like, as he's getting drunker, he just keeps complimenting my shirt.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, leaving Long Island. But I had a great fucking time. Thank you guys. I'm proud to be a major mark.
The next week on the podcast, he's talking about the show and like the people that stood around to hang out, and he mentions that guy with the purple Best Wishes shirt, and I'm like, oh, okay, he remembered me.
Purple Best Wishes shirt guy. Hey, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. You're wearing the purple Best Wishes shirt. You stuck around all night.
I became one of these like reoccurring characters that was mentioned on the show. Me wearing a purple shirt became my gimmick.
Purple Best Wishes guy. Oh my God.
Are you building a brand behind
Somebody who's
Broski's
building
back?
their own brand behind my back.
Seeing it evolve organically into you getting into wrestling figures and collecting and turning it into Purple Best Wishes shirt guy has been a real heartwarming treat for me.
I think you got to get Purple Best Wishes shirts guy.
Yes. Oh, he's on my list.
I think he's got an interesting story, and he's the backyard Russell, so I think he might have an interesting story.
Our next guest, he is the Purple Best Wishes shirt guy.
And then from there, I was on the MWO podcast, and they surprised me by like making a pin for me and making a purple MWO shirt and making it Purple Best Wishes. It's all pretty surreal to me. I even made like a custom figure with the Purple Best Wishes shirt. This is like the only community I've ever like felt comfortable in and like get along with pretty much everybody, and we all know each other, we all support each other.
That Broski of the week this week? I don't know what he's talking about.
I remember wanting to be Broski of the Week when he was doing Z True Long Island Story.
Purple Best Wishes shirt guy, you are officially the Broski of the Week. Congratulations, man.
So why now? Why, after a decade and a half, do a documentary on me wrestling in a park for like 3 years as a teenager? It was doing something I loved that helped me discover something I love even more. EZW is what introduced me to production.
If it wasn't for EZW, I don't know, I would never have nothing that I have right now, because it was from EZW that I met my boss and started editing videos.
When I first started EZW in 2003, Anthony took me to the rec center for us to edit our EZW tapes. I joined that video program that led to me being where I am today. Is my goal WWE? Yes, but not as a wrestler, as an editor, as a producer. Every time I see Dark Side of the Ring or a WWE documentary, I'm just so inspired, and I know that's what I meant to do. And if I can make this documentary with shitty VHS footage, imagine what I could do with actual superstars and actual production. What do I hope the legacy of JR Scar is? That I took the initiative with my character to come up with a look. Probably more for my work behind the scenes, editing the video packages for the award shows, putting us on public access, working on the website. That's what I want my legacy to be, is my jersey, my hair, and my behind the scenes work. I'm never gonna pursue wrestling as a career or go to wrestling school, so it was the closest I ever had to living out that dream.
Till it's gone. Oh.